We are live, so hey everybody, welcome to episode 28 of the World Map Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, as always, Josh, from the Washington, D.C. area. Joining me from the California Republic, Nick? Are you in California this week?
No, that's just a deception. It's to throw people off. I don't like people to know where I am at any given time. So that's just I'm somewhere in another secret lair I have scattered.
All right. You're like a different location every time we do the show. I don't know. And then your other host, joining us from New York City, as usual, Clark.
Good day.
And then we have a very, very special guest this week, who is a New York City-based stand-up comedian, previously of Late Night SNL, Nintendo, The Onion, and IGN's Up at Noon, and currently co-host of the How to Be a Person podcast and writer for The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, Mike Drucker. Hello, sir.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks for joining us this week.
I should have come up with a better hi than that with that.
Yeah, you don't have like a catchphrase like
I wish I did.
I'm sad or something.
Yeah.
That should just be based on all of your tweets,
It should be I'm sad.
Yeah. That's great. All right, so we've got some Q&A that we want to do with Mike coming up in a little bit on the show, but first let's jump right into a section where we talk about what games we've been playing this week called the Backlog. And Clark, man, you wanna start us off this week with what you've been playing?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've been playing a little bit something called Dragonfin Soup. I wanted to try it out because I'd like to say because it looked cool, but no, it was just because it was a free PS Plus game. And I'm always willing to try something free, no matter how terrible it is. Speaking of terrible, the game is pretty terrible. The thing is the art in the game looks great, and it's a roguelike, and I very much enjoy torturing myself with games where if you make one wrong move, you lose all of your progress and have to start over from the beginning. I don't know why, but I think they're great. No Diablo forgiving, let's go back to our previous save type of stuff here. So it started out really good, but then there were problems I started noticing. The biggest one being the game crashes all the time. So
that sounds like a little bit of a problem. I mean, I tried this game too a little while back, and I was really stoked because I think the whole premise is the main character is this like elf, and she I don't know, she's an alcoholic elf or something, and she gets her power from drinking vodka. So I was like, this is gonna be awesome. And then it turns out it crashes a lot, and I would like take a step on the grid and die immediately and have no idea why I died, and I was just like kind of disappointed because it had a very Rainbow Moon kind of look to it, and it didn't turn out to be anything like that at all.
Yeah, that, and then also the inventory management is terrible as well. They just dump every single thing you pick up into one big menu, be it potions or other consumables, crafting materials, equipment, and then the icons are so small you have to kind of scroll through everything via the bad controls in order just to figure something. I still don't know how to do any of the crafting. I heard it was a little bit easier on the Vita because you could just drag and drop, but I played it on the PS4, so I'm not sure. But yeah, it's a game I do not recommend you try unless you don't like yourself or.
So it's perfect for Mike then.
Yeah.
It's a great game.
It's a perfect game for me. I saw it for free on PS4, and I was like, I heard this. Game sucks when it's free, and I'm like, I'm not gonna even click download. Well, it's not worth it.
Yeah, but that's not always true though. Rocket League was free.
Rocket League was free, yeah.
Yeah, well, Rocket League justifies my entire like PS Plus subscription for the year, but November was kind of weak, and I don't like to hate on like Sony's giving us like shitty indie games or whatever, because I find these like rare gems, diamonds in the rough sometimes because of PS Plus, but they gave us this game in November also on the Vita called Invisibles, and there's a Vita version of Invisibles out there, but they gave us the PSP version, I don't know if you guys have loaded this up before, but it starts out with this like quirky like Japanese like live video that they have in the game, like it's an actual actor, but I use the term actor very lightly, and he's just like very into talking about these fake creatures, like these fake Pokemon that they made up, and then the whole
Wait.
game.
As opposed to real Pokemon? I mean, what are you talking about?
Well, Pokemon are obviously very real. I mean, they were some of my best friends growing up. But you know, the whole thing's predicated on using the camera, and it was like that old PSP like clunky camera that attached to the top of it. So now it uses just the built-in Vita camera, and you're supposed to like it's like an augmented reality thing where you're supposed to scan like the table in front of you. The only problem is there are these like trap cards that you were supposed to scan that came with the PSP game. So they gave us this game to download that requires a peripheral that we don't have. So I had to like go online and like print off my own that I found that people had made, but it was still just kind of horrible. It was pretty bad, but I don't know. Mike, does your busy schedule? I know you work like kind of a non-traditional schedule working on the Tonight Show. Does it allow time for you to get much gaming in?
When I make time for it. So sometimes I'll have to wake up earlier in the morning to play a game, or stay up later, which sounds fine, but since the workday's so busy, you actually have to just find moments to play.
Does that lead you to like a lot of 3DS type like handheld gaming, like while you're on the go or something like that, or do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll play 3DS on the subway, or Vita on the subway. I also have like an Android tablet, so sometimes I'll just go with that for a game.
Nice.
I still play stuff, but not as much time.
You and Clark are like the two guys in New York City that have Vitas. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm the only person in the DC area that has one, I think. So.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it means anything because Nier never seemed to function in any way that I understood. So. Yeah.
Nice. Nick, you've been playing, some games that we talked about already on the show: Halo 5, StarCraft 2, Legacy of the Void, and Legend of Zelda: Triforce Heroes. What's been like kind of your favorite thing out of playing those this week that emerged?
Do you want something for each individual one, or
let's combine it just for time's sake.
All right. Well, Halo 5, I finally got. I remember we had this big discussion about it feels Halo, but it feels like it's missing something. Well, they added in Big Team Slayer finally, and that feels the most Halo of anything in the game to me. You just get. They've also taken you outside of these big industrial buildings that seems to be every single multiplayer map in the game. So the first time I loaded it up, I'm outside, I see grass, which is fantastic, and then there's vehicles peppered about, and it was very Halo. It was pretty fun. So I mean,
I'm totally with you. I was kind of hating on the new Halo a little bit, the multiplayer, those constrained maps and all those like indoor maps. I wasn't really feeling it, and with these new maps that they've thrown in, and big team battles are back. I spent all yesterday morning just doing nothing but playing Halo Online, and I'm totally sold on it again. Totally back in. So fun to just have vehicles on the map, not to have to like have some special mode, not to have to buy them.
Pull out your deck here and get the right card.
Yeah. So I'm totally back in. So, I spent most of my small amounts of time that I had to game this week playing Fallout 4, but I talked about that last week, but I did get a chance to, and I'm still loving Fallout 4. It's so amazing, so many great stories. I feel like we need like a separate just Fallout 4 stories podcast just for the crazy shit that happens in there.
Yeah.
But I tried out the two free games with gold games on the Xbox One. They do some of their games in the first half of the month and some of them in the second half of the month instead of giving them to you all at once like PS Plus does. There was Dungeon Siege 3, which was a 360 game emulated on the Xbox One through the new, the backwards compatibility, Diablo-esque type game. I thought it was okay. It did crash on me, though, like a couple of quests in, and I was just kind of like, the controls are a little delayed. It was kind of like, it just made me want to go play Diablo. But this other game also crashed on me a lot. There's like a trend of all these games crashing, all these free games. It's kind of annoying. But this game called Night Squad, which actually I think released on the Xbox One at the same time that they had it free for gold members. This game is kind of interesting. It's a top-down, sort of retro-looking game where there's like an arena, and I think you have about 8 players who are these little knights. They kind of look like Shovel Knight style art, and they're on the screen, and they have like all the modes that you know from something like Halo, like Juggernaut and kind of this team deathmatch and all that. But you're running around the map, sort of old school Bomberman style, grabbing power-ups. And kind of fighting these other knights who are on the screen. So I thought this game was super, super fun. I wanted to keep playing it, but then after it crashed, I was like, I need to move on. There's just too much to play. But I would recommend, I'm sure they'll probably patch it and fix some of the initial issues that they had. So I recommend trying out Night Squad for anybody who likes that old school, like Bomberman style multiplayer. I feel like that's something that's been missing in gaming. I haven't seen a lot of that lately.
Would you say that it's better than just going back and playing Bomberman? Because I'd rather do that, I think.
Actually, yeah, I would just primarily because the controls are tight and the power-ups are actually interesting, and the power-ups stack. So there's one power-up that like puts your knight on a horse, so you move around the map a little faster, and it gives you like one extra hit you can take before you die. But if you get that power-up 3 times, your horse then becomes a unicorn that has a rainbow trail behind it, and it's moving like really fast, and it's just it's pretty freaking awesome. It's pretty awesome. So check that out.
Cool.
Yeah. So I want to move on to our bonus round for the week, which we're going to use as an opportunity to ask our esteemed guest here a few questions. So Mike, I'm just curious. It's fascinating to me the evolution that I have seen the Tonight Show take on since Jimmy Fallon was at the helm. And I was just wondering, like, what kind of insight do you have into, I feel like it's just a totally different kind of show from when, say, like Leno was doing it. Yeah. And it seems really, that used to be a show where, like, if I'm up that late, maybe it'll be on in the background, maybe I'll check out the monologue. But Fallon has really, like, transformed entirely how late night television works and really, like, adapted it to the internet generation, right? Like every segment that you guys write seems to be really honed for like watching that individual segment on YouTube the day after, right? And he's become like really just as much of an internet phenomenon as a late night television phenomenon. So what kind of insight do you have into that process and like that evolution?
Yeah, well, that was all my doing. I totally did that. I take full responsibility for that. No, well, when we became the Tonight Show, we were already late night. Our desks didn't change, our offices didn't change. We had already, had our place in the building. So I think when they asked Jimmy to do the Tonight Show, they were like, we want what you're already doing. So luckily, we didn't have to change that much. I think because it was so different from what was going on before, people were like, oh, this Tonight Show is really new and it's really different. But in reality, it's sort of the show we were doing at late night just an hour later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's crazy, and it's just like, and obviously like that was working, and that was already becoming a thing that people were watching, online and talking about, the day after so much, and it's just like that perfect storm of writing and creative vision, and then obviously Jimmy Fallon's just like execution and performance of everything is just, he's like such a lovable like character to see on screen, and just like. You kind of like look at him and you see him like start smirking about something, and you want to laugh with him. Yeah. And it's just like it's kind of interesting. So, what's it like, working with somebody like who's on that level and just like so seems to be like so on point. How closely do you get to work with him?
Pretty closely. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's amazing when he like because I think there's this perception that everything is done like. Like we're all like typing in some basement, and then he like looks at it at the last minute, and that's like the show. And in reality, he's there, just as long as we are. With you. He's in the basement with us. He's in that basement with us, hitting us.
You heard it here first. Lock Jimmy Fallon in the basement.
Yeah. That's how we keep him there. His contract, we have to lock him in. But he's there. But in reality, he's there just as long as we are, and like he's in all the meetings, and he reads everything, and he like goes over it, and he has new ideas, and often his ideas are much better than ours. So it's a really collaborative process. it's great working with him. I mean, it's frustrating when he comes up with something twice as good as you spent like 2 hours working on just on the spot. But it's good. It's good. I mean, and once in a while, sometimes he'll get a free video game that he doesn't want, and that's how I got Amiibo Festival.
Nice.
So I don't know if
I've heard Amiibo Festival. I think the tweet I saw from Anthony Carboni yesterday was, if I now know if Nintendo packages an Amiibo with the game, it's probably going to be a really bad game.
Yeah. But you know, they were like, "Do you want this?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's a free Wii U game, sure."
You know, they
Awesome.
are packing an amiibo with Twilight Princess, and I know how you feel about that game. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Great, right? That's consensus, right? That's the best Zelda.
Oh yeah, obviously. I love being not Link for most of the game. That's awesome. So Mike, speaking of Nintendo, you used to work there. I mean, you've had this like really like kind of like the every like nerd's dream career basically. Where you worked in comedy for all these great sites and shows, and then also just you just happened to work for Nintendo. Like, did you get a lot of swag like that when you worked there? Like, what's your like prized possession, favorite thing that you got like as a Nintendo employee?
Well, when I was at Nintendo, I actually had 2 tables pushed together and had like all the Nintendo memorabilia I've collected over the years. So I had like the Mario board game from like '85 and the Zelda board game from like '87, which are terrible board games.
yeah.
I had like an old Mario lunchbox. I had a box of Nintendo cereal.
I remember that.
And so those were my prized possessions. And when I left, I just donated it to the company because the company really does like they have all these shelves of old stuff, which is really cool.
Oh
like,
wow.
They're really good about like holding on to their history. So when I left, I was like, you guys keep this stuff. I don't know if I have any prized possessions. You know, when I left, one of the guys, I forget who, but they gave me an inflatable doll of an inflatable sex
You can
doll.
just stop right there.
They gave me an inflatable doll of one of the Punch-Out characters whose name I'm forgetting right now.
Oh, I was so
Bald
hoping
Bull.
you were
It was Bald Bull.
Oh. I was kind of hoping you were going to say like Zelda or Peach or something.
No.
That's what I thought I was.
No, I wish they had that.
Clark
like,
was getting ready to like run over to your place, man.
No.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So what kind of surprised you most about, when you were at IGN and brought in to help start Up at Noon, which now with Max and Brian has become kind of a totally different thing from what it was when you were doing it with Brian and Greg and Nick and all those guys. But there was really like, it seemed like this community sort of groundswell around that show and around you as a writer and often a guest on that show. What kind of surprised you most about how that community came together and that show came together?
I mean, the day-to-day of it, like, IGN had never done a show like that before, so just sort of having to create something like that on our own was a really weird experience. Because whenever I've worked for a show before or something, there was already, like, the machines that made it work. There was already the deadlines in place, the people you talk to, the routes you go with things. When you start up an entirely new talk show, it's almost like, okay, well, when can we even figure out what this is going to be this week? So that was kind of a really cool experience. As far as the community goes, the community was cool right away. What always surprised me wasn't the people who loved it. It was the people who hated it every week. So, because like the people who loved it every week, I'm like, you love it? Great, we love you. But there'd be people who literally every week would be like, this is terrible. You guys are terrible. And I'm like, why are you still with us? like what confused me weren't dedicated fans. It was dedicated fans who hate you. Like, all right, this is how you spent 2 hours of your day.
They have like your pictures on their wall, just like drawing, like or knifing over them. It's like,
darts.
Why are you doing that? It's like it reminds me of that scene from what is it? That Billy Madison with when Steve Buscemi just sits there like putting lipstick on his face, like one of those kinds of people.
That's what it feels like.
That's like what everyone on the internet is.
Like there was one guy who specifically hated me. And I remember like eventually being like, I'm gonna look up his YouTube page, and it was just very short clips he had recorded from his phone of professional wrestling, and I was like, all right, this seems to make sense.
That makes so much sense. That's
that
just
seems
perfect.
to make sense.
Oh man. So you're doing this in addition to your day job. You've started up a podcast recently called How to Be a Person with one of your coworkers, Jess Dweck,
Yeah.
and that podcast is really interesting. It's kind of you interview somebody each week and kind of talk a little bit about their job or their hobby, and so and then at the end of the show it's kind of like, well, what did we learn, and so it's a different spin on what each guest brings to the table each week that you guys are interviewing, and obviously you guys are add a really hilarious element to it.
Thank you.
And I've listened to almost all of those episodes, including the one that went up with Greg Miller recently, which was awesome. Big fan of Greg. But I have to ask, how did the Property Brothers end up on your show, and why are they so funny? They're hilarious.
They're amazing. Another writer on the show, a woman named Caroline, was friends with them, and when we started this up, she was like, "Oh, would you ever want the Property Brothers on?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I want the Property Brothers." I pulled much harder for the Property Brothers than Jess did. Jess, like, I have watched the show on Netflix many times, and Jess was like, I've never seen the show. So I really pushed for the Property Brothers, and they came on and they were great. They're two Canadians, one's a magician. Like, they're just cool. They're weirdly cool. You expect them to be goofy and dumb or like lame or douchey. They're really cool, nice dudes.
Yeah, they seemed really, really awesome. I really enjoyed that episode, and it's actually hilarious to hear about like the creepy people who they come across when they're doing the show.
Oh man, yeah.
Like the woman who liked to put her hand on their thigh as she would talk to them about her renovation.
So weird.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, those guys are hilarious. They're hilarious. Did you so Clark, Nick, did you guys have any questions for Mike?
Yeah, I was just curious about something. I'm wondering because I follow your Twitter feed, and and I think like this guy's really self-loathing. It seems,
Yeah.
Like, do we need to send some people in to make sure he doesn't kill himself or something? I was like wondering, I mean, I'm a big fan of self-deprecating humor, but I was just kind of curious, how much of that is made just solely for the comedy, and how much of your real-life experiences from your past are you kind of maybe putting into that?
I would say it's 80% real, 20% for the comedy.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot in there. There's definitely a lot of self-loathing in there, but sometimes I'm like, I just want to write a tweet, and this is the well I can go to.
It's awesome. I think your brand of comedy, it reminds me a little bit, like one of my favorite comedians is Todd Barry.
Oh yeah,
and it's like it's that same kind of like self-deprecating, dry, like almost insider humor. Like you actually have to think about it, which is like the kind of comedy that's real comedy. So it's like
thank you.
So I just had to read. I was looking at some of your stand-up on YouTube, and I came across my favorite YouTube comment on one of your videos, and it was from a guy. I didn't write his name down, but he said, "The reason Mike Drucker is so funny is you can never tell if his eyes are open or closed."
I've heard that before.
I'm looking at the video right now. I'm pretty sure they're open. I just saw you blink.
They're pretty open. I just
close.
have
I just want
guys.
I just want to confirm for YouTube out there. You do have your eyes open most of the time.
I do. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead then and move on and talk a little bit about news this week, and for all the nerds out there, and call in our news motorcycle. And Mike, if you're wondering like why the hell do these guys have a news motorcycle, it's because on our very first episode we actually had a guy on the show, and he there was like this loud freaking motorcycle outside, or so was it you?
It was not a loud motorcycle. It was I had some video playing on a separate screen, and I accidentally unmuted it, and there was a motorcycle ad. Or no, it wasn't a motorcycle, but it was a jet.
And I was like,
okay,
has a motorcycle like in their bedroom right now, or like what's going on? So we just decided that the news motorcycle is going to deliver our news each week.
Great.
So Mike, I could see you doing a bit around this one, but Facebook announced that they now have a take a break from your ex tool that they put in there that lets you it limits how much you see in your newsfeed from your ex, and like helps you to untag old photos and stuff like that. I feel like that that's helping a lot of people out there with what would normally be a pretty tedious process. But I don't know. I thought it was interesting that Facebook has this tool now.
I thought I mean that's why we're on Facebook, right? Though to look at exes. Is that the reason for it?
Yeah. I thought
I'm not networking.
You're on there to stalk people and
I'm not gonna murder anybody, but
You don't have to murder someone you're stalking. That's an entirely different thing.
Those are big misconceptions.
Two different crimes with two different levels of punishment.
Right.
Well, it's like it also like is there future tools that they're going to do for this? Like, what about the take a break from everyone who has a baby in your newsfeed?
That'd be nice. It'd be nice.
Take a break from like all the Tea Partiers in your newsfeed.
Yeah.
We need more of these tools from Facebook. I think they're on the right track here with this. So the PS2 emulation that Sony promised has been confirmed on PS4. So Sony's not really commenting on it yet. Apparently they're still working on like getting it fully there, but I guess some folks were running tests and found that some games are successfully being emulated now on the PS4 with the PS2. But I still don't think this means we're going to get like Xbox One to Xbox 360 type backwards compatibility, because obviously Sony has the PlayStation Now service they want to sell people, and they've said over and over again they're not going to do backwards compatibility, but worth mentioning. It's kind of interesting there. And then I also wanted to bring up Deus Ex: Mankind Divided was delayed for August the 23rd next year. Originally supposed to release February 23rd. So pretty significant delay there, but I'm at this point I'm okay with delays because I don't have enough time to play everything that's coming out anyway. So I kind of feel like whenever games get delayed and most people are like, oh no, that game got delayed, I'm like, yes, the game got delayed. I can put more time into something else. But Clark, you brought up an interesting bit of news that I wanted to spend some time on. SNES. Some news about the SNES, right?
Yeah, yesterday it was its 25th birthday. The 25 years old. The Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
But I'd say it was the best game console arguably ever created.
It's not arguable. It's actually not arguable at all. It is the best.
It is the best game system ever created.
Yes.
That's awesome. I remember like when it came out, and I remember hearing about it, because back then like you didn't hear about stuff on the internet. Like sometimes you would see it in like a Electronic Gaming Monthly or something if you went to the grocery store with your mom. But I remember on the school bus and hearing about the SNES coming out, and I remember this kid, I think his name was Brian, who like rode the school bus with me, and he's like, man, there's a new Mario. Brian Toney, yeah, he was like the first guy who had an SNES like near where we lived, right? And saw like there's a new Mario. It has dinosaurs in it. You can get a cape. You can fly, and it's like, oh man, I gotta get that. I gotta tell my parents I gotta get that. And it's like, but it's only on this new thing. It's on the Super Nintendo. It's like, what? There's a Super Nintendo now? Like, I just remember
it was so impressive.
It was so yeah.
Man, I just remember the commercials. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want to play with superpower? Man, I have so many great memories about the Super Nintendo, but I mean, and now like you never get a pack-in game with a console at launch, but like Super Mario World, Nintendo Land, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's like 6 games.
Oh, sorry, and Wii Sports, sorry, but man, Super Mario World is just so amazing. But so many Super Metroid. I mean, it was like an all-star console because of the software that they had for it. But man,
you didn't feel like mentioning Link to the Past. You name all these great games, but you don't throw the best one in there. What's going on?
Yeah, Link to the Past. Well, that's because I was naming good Nintendo games on the SNES, not the best game of all time. Sorry.
I mean, one problem though is it didn't have blast processing.
It didn't. That's how Sega did what Nintendo don't.
Yeah, but
you mean stop making hardware?
Yeah. Well, Nintendo is what Genesis isn't, so.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, so Nintendo also did a little something this week, and they opened a new store.
Yeah, they opened their own eBay store.
Oh
Ooh.
yeah.
Welcome to
I saw that.
1999, Nintendo.
I know, they have 33 items up for sale right now.
Wow. So I heard about this, but I also heard like there's nothing there that you can't get cheaper elsewhere. Like there are no sales or anything. Like what's the deal with the eBay store?
I, honestly, I don't know because all the games on there are full price. They don't have all of the products or games they sell. Like, Mario Party 10 new with free shipping. Buy direct from Nintendo. Well, I can already do that by going to the Nintendo World Store.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe they have like future plans with this because everything's just like buy it now, and I, I don't know. It's a little strange, but maybe they had some market research that showed they could sell more stuff on eBay.
I don't know. Maybe it's for those people who just buy everything on eBay right before Christmas.
Yeah, it might be like for like parents or something.
Yes.
Oh, grandma
Yeah.
buying except for the only problem is grandma's gonna buy Wii U games for her grandchild that has a Wii.
Yeah. Although you can get a red Wii Remote nunchuck factory sealed, 58% off. Only that though. There's only one.
Yeah.
Oh well.
27 days left to buy it. So.
Let's get on that. Let's get on that. All right. Well, let's go ahead then and talk a little bit about non-gaming in the section of the show called "We Have Hobbies." So guys, I took a Thai cooking class this weekend on Friday night.
Horrible. Wait, you mean Thai food, right?
Yeah, Thai
Okay.
food. Thai food.
I
Oh no, I
completely-
wasn't cooking actual Thai people. That would be again a different kind of crime.
It was like a TIE fighter, right? You were cooking food on a TIE fighter.
Yes, that's exactly what it was, and yeah, and then I was like force pushed, into the fire. It was really bad. It was really bad. No, so it was like cooking pad thai, obviously, and some kind of like soup and some rice based dessert.
Are these the actual names of the food?
I
On the menu, rice-based dessert and some kind of soup.
yeah, those are you've never been to a Thai restaurant before?
Apparently not.
Yeah. Yeah, well, but it was kind of funny because like I was trying to pay like really close attention. I mean, I can cook sort of, like I can follow a recipe, make things. Like I cook, every now and then. But I was trying to like pay like such close attention. And so there comes this part where you're supposed to take a couple of limes and like massage them and kind of like roll them around like testicles a little bit, and then like roll them on the table, and then you slice them in half. And you're supposed to like juice them into the dish. So as soon as I heard like grab 2 limes, massage them, slice them in half, and then squeeze the juice out of them. Make sure you squeeze them really good, get all the juice out. As soon as I hear that, like I'm like, all right, I'm grabbing the limes, I'm doing it. I'm so focused. And we were like just working on like making the rice like right before this. So I pick up the lime and I'm like juicing this lime, like just juicing it real good into the rice, man. I'm like, this doesn't sound good. I don't know, man. Like rice with lime juice all over doesn't sound good. I don't know. And I look up. There's no one left around the stations at all. Everyone is like up by the pots, up by the ovens, putting their limes in the soup. And I'm like sitting here juicing it in the rice. Like I was so focused, man. I was like, so I totally like kind of messed up that recipe just a little bit. But I'd say, cooking classes, they're kind of fun. I mean, you have to do like, it's like you're paying them to also cook the food, and it costs more than just going to a restaurant. So it's kind of like weird that people do that, but for something to do, it's kind of fun.
The question is, how did your lime rice taste?
It tasted horrible. I couldn't eat it. And then like the soup was also like kind of weird, but it had these mushrooms in it that I just scooped out and ate because they were awesome. The pad thai was okay. I felt like there's a little too much fish sauce in their recipe. It's kind of salty for my taste, but the spring rolls, wrapping in that rice paper or whatnot, like those turned out great. Those were good. Those were good. So if you guys need me to make you some spring rolls, I'm all over it. I'm all over it. I might. If you need some limes juiced and massaged real gently, just let me know, Mike. I'll be right over.
I was looking for someone, and I couldn't find anybody who could do it.
I mean,
But
you might be
now
able to
now I
find it on
know.
Craigslist.
Yeah.
Craigslist, yeah. You can also probably find them in the Nintendo eBay store. I hear
Yeah. Yeah.
they're more expensive there though.
They're full price. There's no sell.
Yeah.
Also, one of the things that I've been doing as Clark and Nick, as you guys know, is rewatching all of the Star Wars films leading up to The Force Awakens coming out next month. And I finally sludged through the prequels and got those behind me and started, got to watch A New Hope this week. Man, what a difference between the prequels and finally jumping into the original films. Just a totally different tone and feeling of movie. It's just I try to I wonder if it's because I grew up on the original films and not the prequels and I have this weird bias. And so I try to be really objective about it, but I think it's just as objective as I can be. The original films are just so good, and the prequels are just so bad.
I think a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, but I recently rewatched Star Wars. I'm not calling it A New Hope. I'm just calling it Star Wars. Because on the original VHS, that's what they call it. But to me, Luke Skywalker seems almost as whiny as teenage Anakin. I mean, how does he turn out good if Anakin turns out bad?
A little bit. It's funny, too, because I noticed other things, going back and watching it, that I never, allowed myself to see in the film because I was, such a fan. When they're have the stormtroopers chasing them and they shut the door behind them, and there's this ravine in the Death Star, and he has to use the grappling hook to get across with Leia, and so they have the guys trapped behind the door, but they're also being shot at from the other side by stormtroopers, and they're dodging the fire. Leia's firing back, and then have you ever noticed once he hooks the grappling hook and they swing across, the stormtroopers on the other side are gone? Where did they go? Why did they just disappear and allow them to get across and escape?
They gave up. They were like, this isn't worth the effort.
It's our laser guns ran out of ammo. I guess we better go do something else.
We got to go back to the charging station and get more. It's normal stormtrooper stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
fair enough.
You were in the Army. You should know.
Yeah,
I mean,
whenever you run out of ammunition, you just stop the fight. You just, walk away. It's all right, other guys.
There's also the safety hazard. There's also the safety hazard of the Death Star. Even the walkway not having rails on it.
You think the Empire had unions, and so they were just there were all these rules around it?
I mean, there should have been. The Death Star was a hazard, inside and out.
Whoa! As an engineer, I think it was perfectly designed. There were no flaws in that, inside or out.
Okay, one question I had was, how does the gravity in that thing work? I mean, if you're at the very bottom of the Death Star, then are you facing towards the center and you're walking this way? I mean, or is it just floor after floor and there's something keeping you held down? I don't know. It's
a good question. I never really thought about it before. I also that whole thing when the Death Star is closing in on the Rebel base and it's 30 minutes until the Death Star gets here. It's all so convenient. They have just enough time to get up there and blow up the Death Star right before they would be obliterated. And then the other thing is why were Leia and all of the Rebel generals and stuff? They're all sitting there on the base of Yavin, watching the Death Star approach, knowing that if the attack on the Death Star is unsuccessful, if that counter reaches 0, the entire planet will be destroyed. Why didn't
extra spaceships?
Well, yeah, why didn't they launch with the fighters and evacuate somewhere? Why were they just waiting to be destroyed entirely? The entire rebellion would have been crushed if not for that exhaust port.
Because they care. They care a lot about Yavin 4, and they're we need to. Because George Lucas is terrible. I mean, there's also a fat guy named Porkins. It's not he didn't leave a breadcrumb trail to where he was gonna go.
Yeah, as soon as you know that this guy's name is Porkins, you're like, yeah, he's
All right.
dying. It's like if there had been a black guy flying an X-wing, he would be dead. Like you just know, like those 70s, 80s movies, like the black guy's gonna die. That's just unfortunate. Yeah,
Honestly, that happens in movies still.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Especially horror movies, like you know who's gonna live at at the beginning of the horror film. You know who's gonna be left at the end. It's gonna be the one like suave white guy and whichever girl is the hottest. They're gonna end up living at the end together, and everyone else will be dead.
Well, they started moving to a trend where the whiniest person seems to be the only one alive at the end.
I hate
No,
that.
you
That's the
never,
first
you never
person
get out of that I hate this character mode the whole movie. Like, if I wanted somebody to die, it's that character, but they keep them alive the entire time. That seems to be the new trend.
Yeah, Mike said that the rebels they stayed there because they care, and I think that's the real lesson to take away from Star Wars Episode 4. As Han comes back at the end, it wasn't just about the money. He really did truly care. So, in a way, this is a family film with a lot of heart and real meaning behind it. And also, there's a fucking like a walking man bear pig that plays chess and rips people's arms off. So
Yeah.
it's just balanced. It's a good film. Awesome. So you guys been doing any crazy non-gaming stuff to keep yourselves entertained this week?
No.
It's
I
all
wish I
about
have.
work.
It's work.
Game.
Fallout 4. Back to work.
Oh yeah, so we've got a little bit of time. Fallout 4, man. Let's without being too spoilery, like what's your experience been with that so far, Mike? And like what kind of I think it's interesting because everybody has a different story for how they approach that game.
Well, I really like the series. I wish that the dialogue wasn't so pared down to what it is now. I always like talking my way out of situations. Now I'm just like, give me more money, and they're like, okay, I can give you more money. And then I'm like, give me even more money. Then they're like, all right, here's 400 cash. And that's the extent of me sort of like using persuasion in the game.
I wish that worked in real life.
Yeah. But I like it. It's one of those games where, and the same could be said for Fallout 3. New Vegas I love, but Fallout 3, the same thing where I'll get really bored and I'm like, this game sucks. Then I'll find something interesting to do and I'll be really excited. Then I'll get bored again and be like, this sucks. So I sort of go up and down on how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I feel like it's a slow burn, and you got to really like get into it and unlock a lot of the abilities and like start exploring and finding a lot of those interesting things. And it's like it's a game where you have to actually work for the story a little bit because it's not told in like an overt way. It's not told in like this really well written like narrative necessarily. Where it comes out is in how you make the story for yourself and what you find through exploration. So I found this this like marina where a couple of guys, these two twins, I think, had been living after the fall of the bombs together. And I found like their terminals, like they each had a terminal, and I hacked the terminals, and then I got to read like the notes that they were writing about each other and see how like that relationship played out. And then I would see a lighthouse with the light on, like off in the distance, and be like, oh, I'm supposed to go to this mission right now, but I pretty much have to know like what's going on with that lighthouse. Yeah. And go over there and find out I'm way under leveled to go to that area, but like come out of it anyway alive, and like I just love the freedom of the game. So I've done one main quest, but I've put a ton of hours into the game. I'm like level 13 right now, and I still have not gone to Diamond City.
Yeah.
But I kind of have to now because I have exhausted my entire supply of Radaway. And I have like 10% of my health bar is actually health now. I'm so totally radiated. I pretty much have to go to a city and find a doctor because I just can't survive against anything. So next stop, Diamond City. Yeah, for sure. Awesome, cool. All right. Well, I think that's gonna get close to wrapping us up for this week. I want to thank Mike again for joining us on the show. Sure. I want to let Clark know I really like the eye patch that he added via Google Effects right now, and the monocle that Nick is wearing. That's awesome. So you can join us live each week here on the Google Hangout on Air. We put the link out on Sundays from our Twitter account at World Mapcast. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. You can get your questions and comments in for the show at worldmapcast@gmail.com. And tell a friend about the show. Review us on iTunes if you want. It really helps us out a whole lot with discoverability and bringing new folks into the show. And Mike, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mike Drucker, MikeDrucker, and my podcast, How to Be a Person, just How to Be a Person on iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud, and The Tonight Show. It's on NBC.
Nice. You have any comedy gigs coming up that people in New York City can go check out anytime soon?
No. Nothing like crazy. Yeah, go to YouTube.
Go to YouTube. Check out Mike's stand-up. Some hilarious stuff on there. So awesome. All right, guys. Well, that's gonna wrap us up for this week. Make sure to tune in next time. And until then, we are Pop and Smoke.